Well, why don't we get started? I think I'm sharing my screen. Up, any questions at this point? That's what this clinic is about. No?
Gerd, I just one question.
Yeah.
This we can tack on to the end if you have enough time. This was just a question that went back a couple of Call the Doctors regarding the security and the code signing and the new approach that's being taken. I just had one question, but we can. It's unrelated to what you're talking about today. So if we have time, maybe at the tail end of it.
Or well, let's get the question down because I'm afraid I'm not. Yeah.
Okay, then I just had a question. In my experience, when getting a code signing certificate for a Windows application, there's two parts to it. One is the certificate, the digital certificate itself that you embed in the code and sign your code with it. But the other one is the role of the certificate authority that you go to that actually does the vetting of the requester that says, you're not a bad actor or you're not an imposter. But that's a soft issue. And they look at a lot of different things for the applicant, even down to like a Dun and Bradstreet report, because they have to do all of their due diligence. And so that's not really a technical issue as much as it is just a due diligence on the business side. So I wondered, in the approach that you have right now, who's the certificate authority that will be used?
Good question. I will try to get out. I know the people to talk to. And I know that in the past, we actually paid actual money for buying these certificates. And I know then, like Microsoft and Apple, they have different not practices, but different methods how you do that with Xcode, for example, versus how you do it with Visual Studio. And then they change it sometimes more often, sometimes not so often. But every time they make a change, it breaks our CI/CD. And yeah, but I know the people to talk to, and I know it's caused every time a change like that happens, it causes a lot of pain. Because sometimes also I think some CAs, some certificate authorities are compatible with that model or the other model, but then when Microsoft or Apple makes a change, then not anymore. And yeah, maybe this might be a good topic for a separate yeah, for our because for another clinic to talk about that very aspect. Because I remember last time that changed, maybe not the current release, but the previous release, 1.14.5 or 1.14.4, my colleagues who deal with this, they thought they had gotten it right for Apple, but then it turned out they hadn't gotten it right, but then fixed it in the next release. And yeah, it's just a source of, well, security is not convenient, as we all know. And yeah, okay, thanks. Good point.
Okay,
I will get someone next time, perhaps, to describe the process and yeah, where our certificates are coming from. And yeah, cool.
Okay,
thanks.
Thank you.
And then, did you have a specific application in mind, like HDFView or the binaries that we distribute, or pretty much across the board?
Well, this was general, and this was based on my own experience in terms of getting the certificate, and the certificate I used for the Windows application, which was the HDF scanner. But that was Windows specific. But I did deal with the certificate authority, and there is a cost associated with it, as well as they do run everything out to make sure, particularly for an independent vendor such as myself, that you're really representing who you say you are, and everything checks out. So there's, so it's taken very seriously, but there is a cost associated with it. So that was just based on my own experience. I just didn't hear the certificate authority part of the previous presentation on it, so I thought I would follow up.
Yeah, thanks. No, I'll follow up. Thanks for bringing it up.
Excellent. Okay, on to your regularly scheduled stuff. Thank you. Thanks,
no,
Gerd.
that's what this clinic is for. Yeah, and more people have joined. Are there any other questions at this point? No, and then feel free to interrupt me. Okay, I prepared a little something. We are just getting out of HUG, the HDF User Group Meeting 2025. It took place May 26th to the 28th. We had plenty of people attending in Hamburg and online, and my colleagues John Reedy and Scott Breitenfeld were in Hamburg, and I think, yeah, that's why I think this is Scott's slot usually, but he's actually still traveling, so he'll be back next week maybe. And yes, I'm not getting tired of thanking our hosts, in this case, Daisy, and the local organizers and our sponsors and the organizing committee who made this all possible. And of course, our very own Lori Cooper, who really helped with, lots of tasks that you don't see, and but that are nevertheless so important that they get done, and including taking care, making sure that all the recordings are happening, they need to be processed and so forth. And then, of course, plenty of work in the run-up to HUG itself. And speaking of videos, I'm happy to report that we are trying to create a little bit of suspense here. The first 13 videos are available now on YouTube, and I believe I have a tab open here. So if you go to that URL, you can see the first installment here of videos, and there will be more videos coming, but it takes some time. And I thought I give you my day one selection, unless I'm mistaken. Maybe not all of them were on day one, although I believe they were. Just things that stood out to me. I mean, I think all presentations were great, but just sort of for my personal impression, I thought I'd pick out a few to and call them to your attention. First up, we had a presentation from a representative from ITER, Rodrigo, and he was reporting on the experiences they had with HDF in recording time series, and in this particular case, a special kind of time series. So this is at ITER in France, the international sort of fusion, nuclear fusion effort. And so these are fusion data, tokamak based. These are considered heavy time series, and they use in particular swimmer, single rider, multiple reader, and from my understanding, I think they are some of the heaviest swimmer users. So they've used it, they have been using it for a long time, and they are really pushing it in terms of the number of data sets and the rate at which they put data into HDF5 files and so forth. So I think that's very worthwhile reviewing. And it also highlights a few interesting problems, not so much with the swimmer implementation, but in a way, if you wish, the fine print. So for example, one problem that they have with swimmer, they have found a workaround, but it's basically part of the swimmer design that we guarantee, so to speak, metadata integrity for the reader, or readers, plural. But this creates an interesting problem because, as you will see in his presentation, a typical layout, let's say, of HDF5 files at ITER consists of, you have kind of two data sets, and one data set is, if you wish, the payload, where you acquire certain packets, let's call them packets, and you just keep appending packets to that data set. And then there is a second data set, call it the descriptor or header data set, which pretty much stores offsets where the payload, so to speak, of a given packet that has some metadata header, but then the payload itself, that range in the payload data set where the data is stored. And of course, these are two separate data sets. And the swimmer model, of course, does not make any guarantees about, so you will be appending data to these data sets in the course of an experiment. And then readers will, of course, see new data appearing, but there is no guarantee about the correlation. So let's say, even though your application what you would do is first write the packet data, so to speak, and then write the header data or the descriptor data. So logically, the order is packet data first and then header data. Swimmer makes no guarantees that that will also be the order in which the data will appear on the reader side. So you could find yourself in a position where you read a header, a descriptor, but the corresponding metadata has not yet arrived. And so, yeah, it's not a bug in Swimmer or something like that. It was not designed with a, call it, multi-data set view, or making any kinds of guarantees about the raw data arrival, in which the order in which they arrive and so forth. But it's just, and he talks about that in his talk. Second one up is also Swimmer related, but not exclusively. A very interesting presentation from someone from this company called Pure Storage, who develop storage solutions, NFS based in some cases. And if you've been around this community for a while, yes, there are some strict requirements for the Swimmer implementations, namely two, which is write order preservation and atomicity of writes. And at least when this whole Swimmer feature was designed and so forth, it was clear that the NFS implementations at the time did not support this out of the box. So there was always this is how certain traditions, let's call it that, form, where then it becomes, in double quotes, gospel after a while, and people say, oh yeah, you can use Swimmer, but don't use it with NFS because it doesn't work with NFS. And this is just a very nice example that, yeah, if you don't track, on the one hand, the NFS evolution, and you don't track actual implementations that sort of accompany NFS, the software solution, with a with underlying hardware, you actually have a lot more capabilities than sort of your generic NFS server. And it turns out, and the representative from Pure Storage presented some very interesting results, that yeah, Swimmer works. They've done thorough and extensive testing. It works perfectly fine with Swimmer. And going beyond that, they, with their storage appliances and so forth, claim to also get great performance with workloads that historically you would associate with parallel file systems. And then, of course, you get into the whole question of the economy. How much does the hardware for a parallel file system cost versus some of these solutions. So it was great to have someone there from the industry and talk about their experience with some of these features. Next one up was another. Oh, and I should also mention Elena. Of course, there are at least 2 Swimmer implementations for HDF5, and Elena talked about a VFD-based approach for Swimmer that's been around for some time, and what potential solutions we might see there in the future. But because the whole NFS story appears in a different light in the VFD-based implementation rather than this original implementation. Next one up, another good one. Some of you might remember that, well, several things. Number one, file versioning was always something of interest to the HDF group through VMS, going back to the VMS days where file versioning was sort of built in to the system. But then there was an implementation as the so-called onion VFD, and but it was really just implemented bare bones, so to speak. It is fully functional and everything, so you can, within an open and close cycle of an HDF5 file, you can create new versions, and you can discover these versions and then open specific versions and so forth. And that was implemented as a virtual file driver, or VFD. And it turns out that a company in Canada used that feature. They used that feature in one of they are trying to develop a standard for non-destructive testing. And if you watch the presentation, they show some examples of sort of the types of solutions that they develop for non-destructive testing of what types of structures. And versioning is a very interesting use case for them. So they actually, that's what the EXP stands for, experimental. So they discovered this versioning feature based on the Onion VFD and did an internal evaluation, and were actually very pleased with that. And if you remember, there is also a version that is not based on VFDs. However, it's implemented in Python. So you couldn't, I mean, it could be implemented in C, but at this point, it's implemented as a Python module. And a very interesting approach to versioning called versioned HDF5. And so there is some choice. As far as I'm concerned, yeah, I think the HDF5 file versioning, with the interest that it's getting from companies like Evidence Scientific, that's that company that develops this or tries to develop this NDE, this non-destructive evaluation standard. I think the Onion VFD is, so to speak, a diamond in the rough. It's really in the rough at this point because, yeah, there is very little tool support. It was also not implemented. There is an RFC. I should have linked the RFC, but I think if you check out the versioned HDF5 episode that we had a while ago, I think I included a link to the Onion VFD RSC. So not all of the things described in there were actually implemented, but nevertheless, they can be implemented. And so, yeah, I think among the many sort of I'm not going to call them esoteric, but in certain use cases, absolutely essential or enabling capabilities. Yeah, I think it's a great feature, and we should just go the extra mile and really yeah, not leave people hanging out there with, oh, there is no tool support for that, or it does do that, but not this other thing. So we should just finish a job, so to speak. And yeah, I hope we can find resources to take this to the finish line, to some kind of completion, including the tool support around it. So for example, yeah, if you open a versioned HDF5 file in that way in HDFView, wouldn't it be nice if you could then look at different versions of that file in HDFView, for example, or in H5dump, or next one up, there was an interesting presentation by Mark from the Janelia Institute about using HDF5 files as ZAR shards, and yeah, I think it's a great use of sort of maybe getting more data under the ZAR umbrella, because it looks like ZAR reading is a piece of cake or child's play in double quotes, but creating data in ZAR is maybe not so easy, or not so easy in a performant manner and across platforms. And hey, if HDF5 files can be made look like ZAR, I don't know what the nomenclature is, aggregates, containers, hey, we are trying to be helpful, but then on the other hand, I would also say that, yeah, HDF5 is HDF5, so don't confound us with anything else. And then a very interesting one, I think this wasn't on day one, Thomas Kloiver from the European XFAL had this interesting presentation. They were all presentations were interesting, but that caught my attention because it's something that went around my mind for a long time. Is this, he was looking at, well, and I think Mark also brought this up in one of the earlier talks, alternative implementations, or not so much alternative, but implementations that go directly to the HDF5 file format specification and are in that sense independent and add additional credibility to the accuracy of the specification and so forth. And he has a nice list of these independent implementations, but he also raised that point of, well, wouldn't it be great to have a machine readable specification and in turn a reference implementation of a serializer, deserializer. And if you watch the video, I think toward the second part, they settled on, in this earlier clinic that I did a while ago, in my mind, yeah, the two main vehicles to achieve that would be either GNU Poke or I forgot, sort of a Japanese sounding struct. Actually, let me quickly jump there. It was here. Kaitai or Katai, a YAML-based approach, and I think that's what he settled on and described in his talk. So I'm happy to see that that's gaining momentum, and I definitely want to connect with Thomas to see if we can join forces, because let's not sort of perpetuate that now that we will have let's say a Kaitai-based machine-readable format specification. Now you could say, well, shouldn't there be another one? But that's then sort of second order and third order and so forth. So let's not go there. But if we can join forces here, I think this would be of tremendous value to the entire community. And yeah, again, we are trying to be helpful. Okay, and then on the HDFView side, remember we posted that survey and it's still out there. And if you haven't done so already and you're interested in HDFView, please go ahead and take the survey. It's just a few questions. And we had at HUG an HDF viewer roundtable, not an HDFView roundtable, but an HDF viewer roundtable that was sort of looking at the several great options that are available as viewers for HDF5, including our own HDF Compass, H5 Web from ESRF, and Silks also from ESRF, and then Thomas Kloiver at XFEL, they have the what's it called, Pike Lens, and there are other fine options available. I think a little bit of my hope was that we would have more of a discussion, and in a way we did not achieve that, because as it went, it was pretty much okay. Representatives for these different packages basically said a few words about their tool, and then in the end we pretty much ran out of time, and there wasn't really much time for discussion. So that's we should do much better next time. But nevertheless, I think it helped me just seeing what everybody else is doing. It helped me to think more about HDFView, and I think really, I want to do something. I want to sort of kickstart or restart the development of HDFView, not so much in terms of bringing in earth-shattering new features or something like that, but just making it a solid tool that doesn't have these weird performance issues, that just has a very well-defined scope. There's no scope creep, and you would hope that once you achieve that, the maintenance cost of such a tool should be relatively low, because there is no need to implement this new feature or that new feature or something. But in the process of thinking about that, I remembered an all-time favorite song of mine, and I think the lyrics describes very aptly the state of HDFView at the moment, and you should review that. This is, by the way, this is a YouTube version of the of a recording, and enjoy it. But so in terms of what's next for HDFView, what's on my list is definitely, it starts with very basic things. I mean, in the survey, for example, people keep telling us, well, even if I wanted to contribute and get started, what's missing is as a developer, you would open a project in Visual Studio, or you use VS Code or Eclipse or something like that. And so you just clone the repo and off you go. But it doesn't seem it's that simple, and I can't understand it. But I'm sure people are right, and it's our fault. It's we got to do our homework, and it's got to be easy for developers to get started. And then plus, people keep telling us in the survey that, okay, I want to contribute, I want to participate, but I don't know where to even start. Why is that? And so let's do our homework there. Next thing up is installer. It just beggars belief that a tool that is so popular and pretty much our only standalone application, that it seems like, the installer is not, okay, we have Debian packages, I know they work. I just recently, for the fun of it, installed it, but then I don't know what the experience is like under Windows or Mac OS and so forth. But so got some homework to do there, but then fix these things, and there is no rocket science here. It's just well understood what not to do and how to solve these things, including, don't try to populate that whole tree view by traversing the entire file structure. Why is that so difficult? Or secondly, with the data set that you want to implement some kind of paging or caching or prefetching, there's no rocket science here. It's well understood how to do this, and I just don't understand why we never did that. And then, just make it usable. Fix the copy and paste that, if you like Excel and you would like to copy a region of a data set from HDFView into an Excel spreadsheet, or the other way around, that should just work. Why is that so difficult? And then likewise, drag and drop. Okay, people, it's a GUI tool, so users will operate in some kind of a graphical user interface, a window manager of some sort. So if I have my file explorer and I drag and drop an HDF4, HDF5, or any other supported file onto an HDFView window, it just should open it. Why is that so difficult, or why doesn't that work? And likewise, import and export, and then supporting all the HDF5 library extension mechanisms, including VFDs and walls and so forth, and external filters. And then perhaps, yeah, once all that is done, that's kind of doing homework. Look at maybe there can we eliminate some of the feature creep that may have taken place. To my knowledge, there is a single HDFView plugin, so I don't know if there is added complexity to the entire architecture, if a single plugin is really worth it, and it might be even a plugin that's unmaintained for a long time and so forth. So let's take a hard look at it, but then look at with all the great AI capabilities that we have now, that we could assist users, for example, when they are designing profiles, or be helpful in terms of making it just harder to make mistakes. That oftentimes goes a long way, and there's just so much knowledge out there now that we can take advantage of. And then it's just a matter of, how can you integrate that into a UI? And you might say, okay, how much complexity is this going to add? And okay, we can think about that, but to me, that's a direction worthwhile exploring. Also looking at the demographics, because another thing we learned from the survey, not that that was a surprise, it's not that only beginners or only experts, so it's not a discrete distribution. It's really beginners, intermediate, experts. A lot of people use HDF5, and then it's engineers, it's scientists, it's whoever else identified their profession or their role. It's used across the board. And then to me, a facelift, so perhaps introducing a new UI or something like that, but that would be really last on the list, because I think people are not really dying for a new UI, as long as sort of these basics we can get them under control and just make them work, and things just work. And I think that's where we want to get to. And I'm way out of time, and I apologize. But then, of course, the question is, coming back to Bruce Springsteen, what's the spark? So I'm pondering that, and I'll let you know if I come up with something, whether it's in the context of a hackathon, or whether we have to offer some prize money. But I think, we want to start definitely with number one. It should be a no-brainer to have an HDFView development environment up and running in no time. And then, of course, you can take advantage already of Copilot or Claude or whatever your preferred assistant is, to give you sort of an opinion on the sanity of that code base. And if you want to refactor something, that's when things come together, and things might happen much quicker than we think. Anyway, thank you very much, and I'd be happy to answer any questions. No? Any questions? If not, then thanks for coming. I hope next time, I think, Laurie, do you know, is Scott?
No, it'll be John Reedy next time.
Oh, even better. Okay, you're in for a treat.
All right. Thanks,
okay,
everyone.
thank you for coming. Yeah. Have a good day. Bye.